What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariel. If you didn't know, over at my channel we are all about lashes, lash growth, lash skills, entrepreneurial tips, all that good stuff. So if any of that applies to you, then this is the channel for you. Okay, so today's video is going to be all about timing. It's all about how long your So today's video is going to be answering a long awaited question. A question that everybody asks, a question that everyone wants to know the answer to, and that question is, how long should my sets take? It's a tricky one, but let's just get into it. Okay, so this is something that everybody asks, everybody wants to know. Everyone has this question on their head immediately after getting certified, or at least after they try their first set. They want to know, like, why is it taking me so long? How long should it be taking me? Am I a terrible lash artist because I cannot do a set in an hour? It's not the case. But that's usually the first questions that you want to know. It's really what you think is your driving force in terms of how good of a lash tech you are, and that is not true. Your timing does not determine whether or not you are a good or bad lash artist. That has nothing to do with it. It just is different for everybody. Everyone goes at their own pace, everyone is at their own speed, and you know what, let me just stop talking about all of that. Let's just get into the video. Okay, so I do want to make it clear that this video is specifically on how long your lash sets should take you, and some whys, but if you guys are interested in a video on how to speed up your lashing, this is a video right here that I did. This one will tell you little tips you can do to speed up your lashing sets and your sets and all that good stuff. Okay, so check that one out. Okay, so I do want to start off by saying that your first initial set straight from training, straight out of training, should take you anywhere between like 3.5 hours all the way up to like 7 hours, 8 hours. It can be anywhere there. It's a really big number, really big range. I have seen some comments where people say that it's taken them like 9 hours. That's not weird. That is totally normal. It is your first time. It is not easy, and you're not going to be that good at the beginning. That's just what it is. There's so many different things that make you lash at a certain pace or a certain time, within a certain time frame, and a lot of it just comes with experience. Like, you're gonna get better as you go. You just have to kind of go through the motions, and you have to go through all these like obstacles, like all those like crappy beginning phases where you struggle. It's just what makes you a good lash artist. Every single time you do a set, it's going to be totally different. Every person is going to be a different challenge. Every person is going to have a different obstacle, if you will, or something may be easy on this person but not easy on that person. For instance, like, this person may have super separated lashes. They just may be super divided and you can easily isolate and apply the lash, but then some others may be super layered or have like super clustered lashes together, and it's going to be a little bit harder to isolate, and that also reflects on your timing, whether or not you're moving faster or slower because it's taking you longer to isolate rather than the other client that has super separated lashes. So you have to factor all those things in when you're thinking about your time, and make sure that those are the reasons that you know your timing is going to take you a little bit longer, so you're not discouraging yourself. You know there are reasons behind why something's taking a certain time. So for instance too, like I said, every time you lash it will be different. I've had clients in the beginning, anytime, where their lash line could be super short and their lashes could be nice and separated, and that could take me like maybe an hour and a half. It could maybe take me 2 hours. But then I have other clients that have like extremely long lash lines, and they have super tight, close together lashes, and then they're curly on top of it. And then I've had someone like that took me like 4 hours, and I'm talking 4 hours not at the beginning, 4 hours like in the middle of my lashing career, where I was up to like 2.5 to 3, or let's say like 3 hours, and she took me an extra hour just because of the way her lashes were, the way her eye shape was super long, her lash line was super long. She had to be, I had to apply more lashes on her and isolate more, so that definitely changed my timing. So it depends on the client and their eye shape. So your timing is just based on different things. Like, your timing, like I said, could be based on how long your client's lash line is, how long it takes you to set up, how long it takes you to pick up a lash, if you're doing volumes, how long it takes you to fan. There's different things that take different amounts of time, and they definitely change over time. So the more you do it, the less you're going to focus on how long it takes you to pick up the lash, and more so on how long it takes you to isolate. But when you're focusing on picking up the lash, isolating, making sure your pads are flat, all that stuff, even if it's like seconds, adds up, and then all of a sudden you're at 4 or 5 hours. It all adds up. It all takes time. So it's just little things that you have to focus on to get better at, so you don't have to focus on that later on. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense, but it's true. Another thing that I want to talk about is just don't focus on your timing, but know where you are. Does that make sense? So for instance, what I'm saying is that don't sit there and do your client and constantly stare at the clock and just be like, okay, like 10 minutes went by and I'm only at this part, or 15 minutes went by and I'm still here, or whatever the case is. Don't do that, because then you're never going to finish. You're going to get nervous. It's going to be a disaster. So do not do that. But what I do want to say is that you want to keep in mind how long that took you. So let's just say you're done your set and you're like, hey, okay, that took me 3 hours. So now when that client comes back for a fill, let's say that was a fill and it took you 3 hours. Let's say that client comes back for a fill, you're like, okay, I know that took me 3 hours. What are some things I could have done to maybe speed up the process? And that doesn't mean sacrificing your lashes or sacrificing the quality. What I mean by that is, like, don't actually do the things in the moment. Think about it after. Let's say you got a little bit faster. So let's say you went down from 3 hours to like 2 hours and 45 minutes, because that is a big difference. It's a whole 15 minutes different. And you know what could have changed? You could have literally just gotten better at taping down your client. You could have got better at placing your lashes. Maybe you found the proper placement on where to put your strips, so it was easier for you to pick them off. Maybe you started using a glue ring instead of a jade stone, so you could dip better and you were able to get more of an efficient setup. Does that make sense? Like, all those things count and go towards your timing, and really can reduce your timing in little ways that actually add up to a big amount, because 15 minutes is a big deal when you're going from 3 hours to 2 hours and 45. Another thing, so speed comes from practice. That's just what it is. It's all about muscle memory. The more you do it, the more your hands are going to get used to it, the faster it'll go. It'll become second nature. It's like, it's always about practice. It's just about doing something so much that you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just a fact. It's what it is. You just keep going and you'll get better. So if you know, another thing is that, like, if you know that your timing is ridiculous and you're like, hey, it takes me like 6 hours to do a lash set or like a full classic set or whatever, make sure that your price reflects that. This is something that can make or break your business. You never want to charge someone like top dollar and it's taking you like half the day to do the set. It's okay if that takes you that long. That's not the problem here. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that make sure that your price reflects the timing. People are not going to complain if they paid like very little for you to do their lashes for hours on end. But if you charge them a lot of money, that's when they're gonna run your name in the mud and they're gonna be like, I'm not coming back to this person. Don't go to her. Don't go to them, because they suck. They take so long. They charge me so much, and it's just gonna destroy your business before you even start. So make sure that you are charging or your price reflects your timing, because that is a really important thing. Because in this case, the way that it works a little bit more is that the shorter it takes you, the more you can charge. But that doesn't mean, again, that does not mean speed up your set to charge more. What that means is that someone's gonna pay more and value you more as long as the quality of your work done in a certain amount of time reflects the price. Does that make sense? I'm trying to say these things without disregarding certain things, but I hope that this is making sense. You don't want to charge somebody just based on you wanting to make the money and you wanting to speed up your set and knowing that, hey, I finished it in an hour, so I'm going to charge this amount of money. But because at the end of the day, if the quality of the lashes are not good, they're still going to come back and complain. So you've got to make sure that the quality of your lashes and the timing of your lashes definitely match your price. Do not overcharge when you're getting lashes done in 6 to 8 hours. That is my point. So then when you're talking about volumes, your pre-made time versus your handmade time is going to be completely different. If you are using pre-mades are going to be a lot faster because it's almost like a classic set. And this is obviously once you graduate from classics to volumes, because volumes can definitely feel like you're back at square one when you start doing volumes. It takes super long for you to start getting that first set done. And this also is a reflection on whether or not you're using Premades or Handmades. If you're using Premades, it's basically like putting classics on. It definitely would take you a lot faster if you're already mastered at classics rather than using Handmades that you're making by hand like in that moment. It's definitely going to take you longer because you're definitely like you're making those fans every time you go ahead and place the lash. So keep that into take that into consideration too when you're calculating your time, that if you are or are not making your fans right there. So this kind of going back to what I was saying about pricing and quality and the amount of lashes put on there. People seem to think that if they put less lashes, it will speed up their time and then they can charge more because again, they're doing it in a smaller frame of time. But at this point, you're putting less lashes on. This has actually happened to me where I got my lashes done and the lash tech put less lashes on, but I went home and I kind of went through the lashes and I saw a bunch of my natural lashes were showing, and I knew that because I was like, why does it look so like not dense? It looked kind of empty, and it was because she definitely took a really short time. I think she finished my entire set in like 45 minutes and I was super alarmed, but they looked really good and I was really confused. And then I realized that she just put really big fans and that covered a lot of space, so that way it didn't look like big gaps. But if any of those fans were to fall out, you better believe there was gaps, like it would show immediately. So do not sacrifice your time by putting less lashes on just to speed it up. That's something you definitely don't want to do because people will notice, and it's a reflection of the quality of your work. And at the end of the day, we're not doing this just to be fast and get paid. We're doing it to actually be good and have quality lashes and give people a quality service. That's how you build clientele. That's how people come back to you. That's how people refer to you. That's just building a brand, building a name for yourself. You need to make sure that value and quality trumps everything else. Okay, so my last thing that I do want to mention, and this is something that I think is really not really talked about, but it's something that really happens, and I know I experienced it when I got certified too, and it is a big reflection on your timing, and it's literally just getting used to using both hands. This is something that we don't really do very often unless you have a job where you do require to use both hands, but most of the time we're using our dominant hand, and for me, like, it's my right hand, so it was really difficult to learn how to use my left hand and isolate with that hand, because it's not like that hand's not doing anything important. That hand's doing something very important. So it's very hard to learn how to take control of that hand and actually keep it still to isolate to then place that lash. It just feels very like awkward and like that it shouldn't be done, and that definitely takes some getting used to. So that's something super important that we have to take into consideration when we're talking about time, because all those things, like I said, all these little things, they take up time, and it's like you're moving maybe a little bit slower because you're still trying to figure out how to hold your tweezers properly and not make it feel so awkward. Like you're still trying to get used to that motion and the placement of the tweezers and how you're supposed to hold them, which fingers, where your hands are supposed to go. And then another thing is also with that kind of conversation is basically the pressure you're applying on your client, right? This is something so new for you. You're really trying your best not to hurt your client, because obviously that's not what we want to do, but you don't know what your client feels, and you're trying to do so many things at once. You're literally trying to do a million things. You're trying to pick up the lashes, you're trying to isolate the lashes, you're trying to make sure the tape's on at the right spot, you're trying to make sure that you're putting the right lash in the right extension on the right lash. It's a lot going on, and then at the same time you're still trying to make sure that you're not pressing so hard on your client's forehead that it's uncomfortable for them, and you're trying to make sure that the tweezers that you're isolating with isn't actually poking through the pad or the tape, but you want to make sure that you're holding it firm enough that you can actually isolate the lash. So you pick up the extension on time and dip it in that glue without it over drying so you can place it on the on the natural lash. There's so many things going on, so these are all things that you have to factor in as to why it's taking you so long. So that's why it takes like like I said, 3.5 to like 8 hours, whatever the case is. All these things matter, and all these things are very, very new. So you're learning, and you have to give yourself time and just be kind to yourself and allow yourself the time to learn. If you're so harsh on yourself and so upset that you can't get it, you're never gonna get it. You need to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to learn. Like I said, be kind to yourself. Don't get frustrated. If you need to take a step back, take a step back. If you need to reevaluate, reevaluate. But definitely keep in mind that you are doing so many new things all at once and you're trying to tie it all together to produce this beautiful set of lashes. It's not that easy, and it's gonna take time, and it's gonna take a lot of patience and a lot of practice. Okay guys, I think I talked enough. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that anyone who's like struggling out there can watch this and really realize like how hard you're being on yourself about your timing, and realize that there's a lot that you have to learn, and that you are in a learning process, and it is a struggle, and anything that's worth learning, anything that's worth having is most of the time a struggle. So definitely keep pushing through it. Don't think about your timing. Just know that you will get faster, you will get better. It's not going to be this hard for much longer. You just have to keep pushing at it, keep practicing, and it will work. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I post every single Tuesday and Thursday, and I will be back with something new next time. Bye!